Hi everyone! Today we're making really delicious pancakes. So I've been craving for pancakes recently and I thought it was about time that we had a pancake recipe on this channel. So this pancake recipe I'm going to show you today is extremely versatile. So you've been writing to me a lot regarding different types of keto flours that you could use. Some I'm more familiar with, coconut flour, almond flour, we use quite a lot. But some of them, I absolutely have no experience in using them. But there are many types of flour. They're keto friendly and full of potentials. So with today's recipe, we're going to explore a few of them. We're going to use 3 different base flours to create 3 versions. So you have a lot more room to play around with the ingredients you have. And also I'm going to use 1 additional keto-friendly flour that I actually never used before. So it might be a familiar ingredient for some of you, but for me, living in the UK, it's brand new. So I'll show you what they are. And also you've been asking tons of questions regarding the French fry recipe, and I'm so glad as so many of you are enjoying the French fries. So I'm going to dedicate a part of this video to answer all your questions. Maybe not all of them, but all the recurring questions, all the main questions you have at the end of this video. So if that's what you're after, you can jump to the section for the French fry Q&A and then come back to the pancakes later. So let's get on with the pancakes. The ingredients you need. Okay, for the base of the pancakes, I'm going to be using coconut flour. So there's something I want to say about coconut flour is the carb counts, the net carbs. So unlike almond flour or other types of flours, the carb counts varies a lot with the coconut flour. Depends on what brand you get from which manufacturer. The one I'm using today is from Groovy Food Company, and this one, it's got the lowest carb count I know. So this one, it's got 16 grams of carbs, net carbs per 100 grams. So that's probably the lowest I've seen with coconut flour. With other brands, I've tried different ones. Some of them are as high as 50 grams per 100 grams. So this is just something you need to watch out when you buy a coconut flour in particular. You really want to check the labels and make sure it's on the lower end. I think on average it's about 20, it's kind of acceptable, but 50 is definitely not ideal. So I just want to remind you of that. And then we're going to mix in some lupin flour. So this is lupin flour's first appearance on this channel. It's been mentioned quite a lot on your comments, so I thought I just had to check it out. So some of you might be familiar with it, but just in case you don't, it's made of lupin beans. It's a type of legumes. And thanks to the high fiber content, the net carbs are extremely low. I think for 100 grams, it's only 3 to 4 carbs, net carbs. So extremely low. It's lower than almond flour. So it's a good flour to incorporate in the keto cooking. So I've got this really big bag. It's a 1 kilo bag from Amazon. So it's gonna last me for a long time. The only downside with this flour is that if you use too much of it in a recipe, the end product is going to taste bitter. So I'm using a small amount in this recipe, but it makes a lot of difference in terms of enhancing the end product. And I'll explain to you what that is later. And then on top of that is psyllium husk. So we need some psyllium husk powder. And then to make the pancake moist and delicious, we're going to add in some vegan yogurt. And I say coconut yogurt is probably most ideal because it tends to be thicker. Because some vegan yogurt can be quite runny. So you want to find the creamiest and thickest vegan yogurt you can get. And then we also need some xanthan gum. We're going to add in a small amount. And then some baking powder as well to make it nice and fluffy. And then sweetener of your choice. So you can use any type of sweetener, solid or liquid. And then this is optional. I'm going to add in some vanilla extract as well. So it's up to you. So as I said earlier on, I'm going to create 3 versions of the pancakes. So there are 2 additional flours I'm going to use as a base. And this one is the hemp seed flour. Many of you have been mentioning this flour, and it's really nice and keto as well, quite low carb and really nutritious. And then our ground almonds. the usual suspect. So this is nice and simple. The coconut flour is interchangeable with the other two, and all the remaining ingredients are the same. So let's make the pancakes. So to create a pancake batter is easy peasy. We're going to add in all the dry ingredients first. So I've got 20 grams of coconut flour here. So this is a recipe that's for one person. So this is going to create 2 pancakes, and I think that's perfect for one person. And then we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of lupin flour, just 1 tablespoon. And this really makes a difference with the texture of the pancakes. And then also 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk. And then we're going to add in 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum, just 1/4 teaspoon, so really small amount. And then 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, level teaspoon, goes in. So that's all our dry ingredients. And what I'm going to do is actually sift the flour. This would mix all ingredients together, but also give the mixture a lot more air. So just give it a quick sift, and then just give it a little rub, like that. Okay, so that's our flour. Transfer it back here. And then in our dry ingredients, we're going to add in some hot water. So this is freshly out of a kettle, and I'm going to scoop in 2 tablespoons. So it's piping hot. 1 tablespoon, 2. And then take a spatula and then start mixing it. So you probably see me using hot water to create bread doughs quite a lot. And the reason we want to use hot water instead of cold is to create that instant cooked dough. So the idea is to create that instant partially cooked dough with the hot water. So it normally works with gluten flour, like wheat flour. So I knew of this technique, but I was never quite sure that it would work for gluten-free flour. And lo and behold, I tried it on binders. And I realized the technique actually works when you have ingredients like psyllium husk and xanthan gum, sort of binder type of ingredients. And it creates this partially cooked dough. Can you see that? The little lumps. And we're going to mix it in with the remaining raw ingredients, and it creates beautiful texture. So this is why we're using hot water instead of cold. Okay, now, so we're going to mix it with the spatula like this. And it really helps with the rubber spatula because this dough will be too sticky for your hands to handle. And now I'm going to add in the yogurt. I'm using coconut yogurt. We need roughly 2 tablespoons. So I'll include all the recipes in terms of quantity and everything for all 3 versions in the description, so you can have a look. And then we're going to add in our sweetener. So you can use sweetener of your choice. For mine, I'm using Truvia. It's about 1 tablespoon. I should do it. And then I'm going to add in a few drops of the vanilla extract and then give it a good mix. So the rubber spatula really helps in this operation. Okay, one tip about the spatula, if you're about to buy a new one, is to find one that is built in one. So the whole thing is one piece. I used to have one that worked quite well, but the tip is actually separate from the handle. You know, after a while the head will fall off if you apply pressure like this. So if you're going to buy a new rubber spatula, I recommend the all-in-one spatula. So what you want to do is mix it really well, almost like you're kneading it. So it should be quite moist. If for any reason it's too dry, then add a little bit more yogurt to add more moisture into it. So it's not going to be runny kind of pancake batter, like regular pancake batter. It will actually be more like a soft dough or really thick batter. Depends on how you look at it. Okay, and this is really it. We're going to make 3 versions. So I've got the other 2 ready here. So this is a hemp seed version, and it smells really good as well. I really like it. And also almond flour as well. So you can see the colors and texture are slightly different. The coconut flour is slightly firmer than the other ones. Okay, so let's fry them. Okay, so here's my frying pan. I'm going to add in some coconut oil. So I'm going to use coconut oil to fry my pancakes. And I'm going to turn the heat on. So we want medium to low heat, somewhere in between. And once the oil is warmed up a little bit, I'm going to take my dough and just divide it in half. I'm going to make 2 pancakes out of this. So just use a spatula, kind of just roll them into 2 little dough balls. You can use your hands if you want to. Okay, so this is the coconut flour version. And then my almond flour version. And then those are my hemp seed pancakes. So keep the heat medium to low. So resist the temptation to want to kind of move them around immediately. We want the bottom to kind of crisp up before we attempt to move them. So I'm going to just use this spatula, kind of just press it down slightly to gradually shape them into these lovely pancakes. So I've got another spatula here. Just gently press it down. So the mixture is more dough-like rather than batter. And this is just the nature of keto pancakes. Just make sure the bottom is coated with generous amount of oil. So you want to check the bottom of the pancakes. When they start to kind of brown, you know they're safe to flip. So I think they're ready to be flipped. So I'm going to attempt to flip these ones. Oh, beautiful. That's nice. And my hemp seed version as well. So by keeping the heat low, we're allowing the pancakes to cook through properly. So each flour has its own characteristics and flavor. So they create slightly different texture. Beautiful, I think they're ready. It smells so good. That is just so lovely. And I'm going to fry the remaining dough that I have. And we're going to plate it up. Well, so there you go. That's my keto pancakes in 3 different versions. So that's the coconut flour, hemp seed flour, and the almond flour. So you can have them just like this with some nut butter, but I'm going to be extravagant today. I'm going to turn it into a dessert. Okay, so here's my plate, and I'm going to place my coconut flour version here to create my dessert. I mean, it's actually my favorite version. I'll let you know, because the texture is just so mochi-like, you know, like a Japanese mochi. It's so nice and moist and soft. And I'm going to top it with a scoop of these luxurious coconut yogurt and just a generous dollop on top. And then I'm going to drizzle some of this gorgeous homemade raspberry sauce I made earlier on. I mean, this is so easy to make and smells amazing. I'll put a recipe underneath. Okay, everything you see here, all 3 versions, the pancakes, the raspberry sauce, I'll put instruction down below. So I'm going to drizzle some of this beautiful, beautiful sauce around my pancakes. Oh, so luxurious and totally guilt-free. And I'm going to scatter some blueberries around. And this is going to be just such a great dessert. And on top of this beauty, I'm going to just pop a strawberry on top. And if you're really extravagant, a few more raspberries. I mean, can you beat this? I really don't think so. So there you go. Here's our keto vegan pancakes in 3 different versions. So now it's time to demolish this beautiful, delicious tower. I feel bad, but it has to be done. So if you hear some noises in the background, it's my cat playing frantically with a toy mouse. I sliced it earlier on, and then my camera wasn't on, as usual. So you can see this beautiful chunk of pancake. Oh, look at that. Oh my God, this is so good. With the raspberry sauce. So fluffy and lovely. It's moist, it's fluffy, it makes perfect pancakes. The raspberry sauce is so good. You must make it. Oh, let me have one more bite. This is definitely one of the most luxurious keto desserts I've ever had. And as I said, my personal favorite is the coconut flour version. I'm going to show you the other 2 as well. So this is the almond flour version. So they all, the texture is subtly different. I mean, almond flour is really nice as well. I'll just show you. It's really lovely, really nice and fluffy. I'm gonna just dip in a little bit of raspberry sauce. Oh, yeah. There's a difference between coconut flour and the almond flour version. Is the texture is more crumbly. It really depends on your preference. I think coconut flour is more mochi like. You know, Japanese mochi. It's got that slight elastic feel to it. And this is more bready, cakey, crumbly. And if you like that, almond flour version would be perfect for you. And let's try the hemp seed. I really love the hemp seed fragrance. It's so herby and it just feels so healing. You just feel like it's just so good for you. The texture is just lovely. So with this recipe, I'm using xanthan gum and psyllium husk. They're both binders, but they do different jobs. I mean, psyllium husk will bind everything together and make everything moist and elastic. But xanthan gum is also a binder, but it will make your pancakes crispy on the surface. So they're similar but not interchangeable. So before you're thinking about taking out any of these ingredients and replacing with others, just think about what they do. And I'll definitely recommend that you stick with the recipe. I think it creates kind of the best of the both worlds. So feel free to try them out at different versions. And you know, visually they look differently, they taste differently. I mean, it's just so much fun to do. So I hope you liked today's recipe and we'll give it a go. And as I said, I'm going to dedicate a little bit of time answering your French fry questions. So here we go. Okay, so here's the French fry Q&As, okay? So many of you have been asking about storage, whether you can freeze the fries pre-cooked or post-cooked. And the answer is yes to both. So I've done both. They work perfectly fine. So you can create the dough, cut them into strips, and then just lay them out on a flat surface. I use a chopping board and then just lay them out and put them in the freezer for a couple of hours. And once they're frozen, you can put them in whatever container, freeze-proof, that you want. And then just freeze them that way. They will keep for a long, long time. If you freeze them uncooked, then you can take them out. Either you can oven bake them or just fry them in the frying pan. So if you oven bake them, make sure you coat them with generous amount of oil and then bake them in 200-degree preheated oven for about 15 minutes. For my oven, it might be different with yours. But if you freeze them cooked, then I'll recommend oven baking them. So you don't have to add any additional oil, just lay them out on the baking tray. And again, 200-degree preheated oven for about 10-12 minutes, depends on your oven. And they come out nice and crispy. I probably wouldn't refry them again. I think you probably overcook them. So if you freeze them cooked, then just reheat them in an oven. And it's so nice and quick. Okay, so that's the storage. And also you've been asking whether you can deep fry them. And of course you can deep fry them just like regular fries. And the reason I don't deep fry them is because I don't have deep fryer. And also to deep fry, it uses a lot of oil. And I never know what to do with the used oil. And I don't like the idea of reusing oil. So if you have no issues with that, then definitely you can deep fry them, just like regular fries. And there's another question regarding frying is about air fryers. So many of you have been asking whether it works with air fryers. And personally, I don't know because I don't own an air fryer, never use one. But there's another person who can help you. So I'll recommend you check out Serious Keto, the channel. I think the gentleman is called Steve. I'm not too sure. But he very kindly tried out my French fries, some called Heavenly Fries. Thank you for the name. I love it. But just call them whatever you want. As long as you love them, that makes me very happy. But check out Serious Keto channel. It's not vegan channel, but it's extremely interesting because the gentleman actually does a lot of experiments on resistant starch. You probably have seen my resistant starch video as well. If you haven't, I'll put a link underneath. So my approach is more, I say more organic or holistic. I was hoping to use my body as a guide and to see how I felt being on resistant starch rather than doing testing, etc. So for those of you who have been watching my channel, you know I don't test anything. I don't test my glucose levels. I don't test my keto levels. I basically go with how I felt on it. So that's my approach. But if you want something more sort of based on data, serious keto, the gentleman does really methodical experiments in terms of using different food items and different cooking methods. And he measures glucose levels, his ketone, etc. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out his channel. I'll put a link underneath as well. So I digress. So the reason I'm mentioning serious keto is that the channel creator also tested out my fries using air fryer, and I think he did a couple of twists as well. So it's extremely interesting, and so definitely check it out. And he will be able to provide you advice on air fryer, whether it works or not. So that's the air fryer. And also another question that comes up is the carb count of the fries. So again, coconut flour, as I said in the beginning of the video, varies greatly, depends on the product you buy. It could go from 16 carbs per 100 grams up to 50 with the products I've seen. So the coconut fries, based on the quantity of the recipe, should be around 10 carbs for the entire batch. And the almond flour fries would be probably about 6 to 7 grams of carbs. And also with xanthan gums, I think there's some misunderstanding with xanthan gums in terms of the carb counts. So xanthan gum is derived from sugar originally, but it goes through a fermenting process. And in the process, I think the sugar is rendered into something else, and it's no longer sugar. So xanthan gum actually has 0 net carbs, just so you know. So with the fries, basically you just need to focus on the carb counts of the flour, and the rest is really just xanthan gum and the water. And I explained earlier on why we use hot water versus the cold one, so you know the reason for that. So these are the sort of, reoccurring questions I've been seeing. So I thought, I just answer them here and hopefully clarifies for you. But overall, I'm just thrilled to see how happy you are with the French fry recipe. Whenever you create something, you just never know how it's going to be received. And I'm just so happy. And, I get so many comments from you and saying how much you enjoy the fries. So it fills me with joy. And another thing that makes me really happy is that you guys really go to town with experiments. I saw one lady on Instagram actually created donuts with the dough. And I'll put the link to her Instagram here. I just thought it was so creative. And this is the spirit of the whole thing. I'm experimenting, but whatever I put out there, if you take it and have your own twist, if you wonder if it will work this way or that way, I say just do it. But if you worry about kind of wasting ingredients if it doesn't work out, just do half of the recipe or even quarter. That's how I normally do it. I go in with small quantity as much as possible. And if it starts to work, I'll start, multiplying the quantity and see how it works out. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but you always learn something. But when something works out, it could serve you for life. And if you share it with others, it enhances other people's lives as well. And it's just a beautiful loop and circle of sharing and experimenting. So I hope you join me with this mindset movement, and particularly with us keto vegan, it's really up to us to create new food or new versions of food, because there are not that much out there available readily and comparing to people who eat regularly, and there will be billions and billions of recipes. So it's up to us to carve out, how we like to eat, the food we enjoy. So it's extremely fun and rewarding. So I continue with my experiments for sure, and I hope to hear about yours as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's pancake recipe, and I'll chat. And follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. I post the food I eat and also recipes from this channel as well. So check out my Instagram. So thank you for hanging out with me today, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.